Before fast food restaurants, microwavable trays and factory-made snacks started dominating our mealtimes, indigenous nations across North America had already refined cooking methods powerful enough to sustain entire cultures for thousands of years. Their culinary knowledge was not just about filling stomachs. These dishes were medicine, identity, and survival all woven together. Before we dive into her story, here's how things work on this channel. I explore the historical subjects that fascinate me, especially Native American history, and I share them the same way I would in a real conversation with friends. If that's your vibe, feel free to hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out the other videos here if you want to explore more powerful stories, hidden history, and legends from the past. Now, back to our tale. 25. Native American dinners you'll wish you had discovered earlier leads you through flavors most modern Americans have never tasted, even though they offer nourishment and depth that make many contemporary recipes seem shallow by comparison. Wóžapi, sacred berry sauce. Wóžapi, sometimes written as wóžapi, is more than a simple berry topping. It is one of the most honored foods in Lakota life. This sauce carries stories, memories, and prayers. It is tradition you can eat, carefully passed from mothers to daughters and grandmothers to grandchildren. The word itself is often translated as pudding in Lakota, but that simple English word cannot capture the spiritual weight, history, and emotional connection tied to this dish. To call it only pudding is to miss what it really is: edible heritage. Preparing wóžapi requires time, care, and deep respect for what the land gives. You begin with the berries the season offers: choke cherries, blueberries, strawberries, or other wild fruits. These berries are crushed, mixed with water, and heated slowly so they release their natural sweetness. Some modern versions add a drizzle of honey or maple syrup, but traditional wóžapi relies fully on the fruit's own sugars. The real magic unfolds during the gentle, patient simmering. As the berries soften and collapse, they transform into a thick, velvety sauce that clings to the back of a spoon. This is not meant to be eaten as a standalone dessert. Wóžapi is a companion food, served alongside fry bread, wild game, or even modern comfort foods like pancakes. For the Lakota, wóžapi is essential at important gatherings and spiritual events. It appears at feasts, ceremonies, and community meals where sharing food is a way of strengthening relationships and honoring ancestors. Pemmican, the original survival bar. If indigenous people had designed the first energy bar, Pemmican, here called Pemmican, would have been their masterpiece. This concentrated, compact food sustained warriors, messengers, and hunters for weeks or months while traveling vast distances. The name comes from the Cree word Pemmican, often anglicized as Pemmican, meaning roughly manufactured fat, though that literal definition does nothing to express its value to the people who relied on it. To create pemmican, you begin with very lean strips of meat, traditionally buffalo, deer, or elk. The meat is sliced thin and dried slowly over low fires or in the sun until it becomes completely dehydrated and brittle. After drying, the meat is pounded or ground with stones until it turns into a fine, fluffy powder. This powdered meat is then combined with rendered animal fat, melted until liquid. Often dried berries such as cranberries or choke cherries are mixed in as well, adding vitamins, antioxidants, and a pleasant tang. The mixture is pressed into dense, dark cakes or bars that can keep for years without spoiling, as long as they are properly stored. Just a small piece of pemmican could fuel a person through an entire day of walking, hunting, or traveling. Today, hikers, backpackers, and athletes have rediscovered pemmican because it delivers complete nourishment in a small package. The fat offers long-lasting energy, the protein repairs and supports muscles, and the berries provide vital micronutrients and help prevent illnesses like scurvy. For many Native communities, pemmican was not just a food. It was security, survival, and freedom of movement in one powerful, portable form. Tonka bars. a modern revival of pemmican. Tonka bars are a contemporary interpretation of this ancient food, inspired directly by pemmican and created by Native American entrepreneur Mark Tilson. These small snack bars merge time-honored ingredients with modern convenience, bringing the wisdom of indigenous nutrition into today's world. Each bar combines buffalo meat with cranberries and natural herbs or seasonings, echoing the original balance of fat, protein, and fruit used in pemmican. The name Tanka means great or large in Lakota, expressing both the spiritual depth and the broader impact of these little bars on health and community. Unlike mass-produced energy bars loaded with artificial sweeteners, chemical preservatives, and synthetic flavors, Tonka bars stay faithful to the core principles of traditional pemmican. Buffalo serves as the main protein. Cranberries add real fruit sweetness and antioxidant power. There are no artificial preservatives, yet the bars remain stable for months thanks to the natural preservation methods of drying and fat rendering. What truly sets Tonka bars apart is their role in indigenous self-determination. The buffalo meat is sourced from native-owned herds, and profits are used to support tribal economic growth, land stewardship, and food sovereignty projects. So when you eat a Tonka bar, you're not only giving your body high-quality, ancestral nutrition, you're also directly supporting native communities who are rebuilding their traditional food systems while creating strong, modern businesses. 3 sisters: stew, corn, beans, and squash. The 3 sisters are not humans at all, but 3 crops that form a brilliant agricultural partnership: corn, beans, and squash. For more than 1,000 years, they served as the foundation of indigenous farming across much of North America. These plants were grown together in the same field. Corn stood tall and acted as a natural trellis for climbing beans. The beans fixed nitrogen in the soil to feed both corn and squash, and the squash spread wide leaves over the ground, shading the soil, locking in moisture, and deterring weeds. 3 Sisters Stew is a celebration of this ecological teamwork in the form of a hearty meal. To make it, you typically begin by simmering dried beans until they become soft and tender. This step takes the longest, so it always starts first. Next, fresh or dried corn kernels are added, followed by chunks of winter squash, such as butternut or acorn. Some native cooks enrich the stew with wild game like rabbit or venison, while others keep it entirely plant-based. Either way, the nutritional balance is extraordinary. Corn and beans together provide a complete protein profile with all essential amino acids. Squash contributes vitamins A and C, fiber, and slow-burning carbohydrates. For countless indigenous families, variations of this stew got them through cold, unforgiving winters. It stands as proof that plant-based eating had the power to nourish entire societies long before modern vegetarian or vegan diets became fashionable. Acorn bread, turning bitter nuts into sweet sustenance. Every autumn, oak trees drop acorns in such abundance that the forest floor can look like it's covered in marbles. Many people ignore them, but indigenous communities across North America saw them as a reliable, seasonally available food source, nature's own grocery store. However, raw acorns contain tannins that make them extremely bitter and, in large amounts, unsafe to eat. Native peoples developed careful methods to transform these harsh-tasting nuts into mild, delicious, and nourishing bread. The process begins with cracking open the acorns and grinding the inner nut meat into a coarse meal using stone tools. At this stage, the meal tastes overwhelmingly bitter because of the tannins. To remove them, the meal must be leached with water again and again. Traditional techniques vary. Some communities place the acorn meal in woven baskets and repeatedly pour water through it, letting the liquid wash away the bitterness. Others bury the meal in flowing streams, allowing the running water to do the work slowly over several days. Once the tannins are mostly removed, the acorn meal becomes pleasantly nutty and mildly sweet. It is then mixed with water into a dough, shaped into flat cakes or small loaves, and cooked on hot stones or in earth ovens. The final bread has a dense, satisfying texture and a rich, earthy flavor that is very different from wheat-based bread. Acorn bread delivered crucial calories and nutrients, especially in winter or times when hunting and fresh plant foods were scarce. Blue corn mush, sacred breakfast of the Southwest. Blue corn holds deep spiritual and cultural significance for many Southwestern tribes, particularly among the Hopi and Navajo. This ancient variety produces kernels that range from deep indigo to purple blue and are richer in protein and antioxidants than many common yellow corns. Blue corn mush became a staple food, especially for breakfast, offering a dependable source of steady energy in harsh desert climates. The preparation starts with drying blue corn on the cob, then grinding the kernels into a fine meal using stone metetes. This grinding is physically demanding, but it produces a smooth meal with the ideal texture for mush. Many families still cherish metates passed down from great-grandparents, their volcanic stone surfaces polished by decades of use. The ground meal is slowly whisked into water and cooked over gentle heat, stirred constantly to avoid lumps. As it cooks, the mush thickens and shifts into a beautiful lavender or dusky purple shade, with a flavor deeper and nuttier than conventional cornmeal. For many families, blue corn mush is eaten in the morning, sometimes lightly sweetened with wild honey or berries. Thanks to its high protein and complex carbohydrates, it provides long-lasting energy without the sugar spikes that come from modern boxed cereals. Wild rice and cranberry pilaf, manuman in a bowl. Wild rice is not technically rice at all. It is a seed from an aquatic grass that thrives in shallow lakes and slow-moving waters of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and parts of southern Canada. The Ojibwe, Anishinaabe people call it manuman, meaning good berry, and they have harvested it in traditional ways for more than 1,000 years. This grain is so sacred that Ojibwe prophecies describe their ancestors following the food that grows on water to find their homeland. Harvesting wild rice requires both skill and reverence. Families paddle birch bark or wooden canoes into thick stands of rice during late summer. Using specially carved poles, they gently push their boats through the stalks while knocking ripe seeds into the bottom of the canoe with wooden sticks. This method allows many grains to fall back into the water, ensuring future growth. After harvest, the rice is dried, parched over fires, and then winnowed to remove its outer hulls. This creates the dark, aromatic grains we know as wild rice. When cooked into a wild rice and cranberry pilaf, manuman's nutty, earthy flavors are complemented by the bright tartness of cranberries, another traditional wild food. The rice is simmered slowly until the grains split open and become tender, then combined with dried cranberries, wild onions, and sometimes nuts like hazelnuts or walnuts. This dish offers a complete package: protein, high-quality carbohydrates, healthy fats, and antioxidants, all in one comforting bowl. Buffalo roast with juniper berries, the taste of the plains. Once, buffalo herds roamed the Great Plains in numbers so vast that they could darken the horizon for days. For plains tribes such as the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Crow, buffalo were at the center of life, providing meat, hides, tools, shelter, and ceremony. A buffalo roast seasoned with juniper berries represents one of the finest examples of plains cooking, balancing rich, grass-fed meat with the resinous, aromatic flavor of wild juniper. Preparation begins by choosing a solid roast from the shoulder or hindquarter. The meat is rubbed generously with crushed juniper berries, which are actually the female cones of the juniper tree. Their flavor is reminiscent of pine and gin, with a slightly bitter but refreshing edge. The seasoned roast is then cooked slowly at low temperatures, often buried in earth ovens lined with heated stones or suspended over banked coals. This slow method breaks down tough connective tissue, leaving the meat tender enough to slice with a bone or wooden knife. As it cooks, the juniper permeates the meat, giving it a flavor unlike anything found in a modern spice rack. This dish was more than a satisfying meal. Juniper has medicinal qualities. It can aid digestion and has natural antiseptic compounds, making this a form of medicine wrapped in nourishment. Bison bone broth, ancient collagen and mineral elixir. Long before bone broth became a trend in health cafes and wellness blogs, native people were simmering bison bones for days to draw out every drop of nutrition. During brutal winters when fresh plants were scarce and hunting was difficult, bison bone broth became an invaluable source of strength. Large leg bones, knuckles, and marrow bones were cracked open and placed in water-filled pits or large vessels. Heated stones were added repeatedly to keep the liquid gently simmering for 24 to 48 hours or more. Over this long cooking time, collagen, marrow, and minerals slowly leached into the broth, creating a rich, deeply flavored liquid. Some tribes added wild vegetables such as prairie turnips or lamb's quarters for more nutrients and variety. When cooled, the broth often set into a jelly-like consistency from the natural gelatin. This gelatin supports joint health, gut healing, and tissue repair. The broth also contains minerals like calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, which promote strong bones and teeth. Modern nutritional research now confirms what native communities already knew. Bone broth carries rare nutrients like glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline that support skin, hair, nails, and overall resilience. Bear fat fry bread, survival and memory. Fry bread occupies a complicated place in Native American hearts. It is a beloved comfort food, but also a reminder of colonization, forced relocation, and government-issued commodity foods. Before flour and lard were distributed by federal authorities, indigenous hunters rendered fat from animals such as bears, elk, and buffalo to create long-lasting cooking oil. Bear fat in particular is prized. It has a high smoke point and imparts a savory, slightly nutty taste. To render bear fat, the fatty tissue is chopped into small pieces and slowly heated until clear liquid fat separates from the crispy leftovers, often called cracklings. The pure fat is then stored in hides or, in modern times, jars, where it can remain usable for months. The fry bread dough itself is simple. Flour, a bit of salt, baking powder, and water are mixed into a soft, pliable dough. Small rounds are stretched thin and carefully lowered into hot bear fat. They puff and blister as they cook, turning golden with crisp edges and tender centers. Traditional fry bread was often smaller and denser than many modern versions, designed to pack as many calories as possible into a small amount of grain and fat. Eaten with wóžapi, honey, or meat, bear fat fry bread provided quick, filling energy during long journeys, harsh snowstorms, or times of scarcity. Corn husk wrapped tamales, ancient corn packages. Indigenous peoples of the Southwest had perfected tamale making long before Spanish colonizers arrived. Tamales are essentially corn dough packages, wrapped, filled, and steamed until soft and fragrant. The husks of the corn serve as both the wrapper and the cooking vessel. Inside, ground corn dough is combined with meats, beans, or vegetables, then steamed slowly in earth ovens or large clay pots. This makes tamales ideal for travel and communal feasts. The process begins with dried field corn kernels. These are soaked in an alkaline solution made from wood ash or slaked lime in a process called nixtamalization. This step removes the hulls, makes the corn easier to grind, and unlocks important nutrients such as niacin while adding calcium to the diet. The nixtamalized kernels are then ground on stone metates to produce masa, a smooth, soft dough. This masa is spread onto softened corn husks. The filling can be shredded rabbit, deer, or turkey, seasoned with wild chilies and herbs. Or it can be mashed beans blended with seeds like sunflower for a vegetarian option rich in protein. The husks are folded or tied closed and steamed for hours, allowing the masa to firm up and absorb the flavors of the filling. Peeling back the hot husk releases a fragrant cloud of corn and herbs, a connection to thousands of years of indigenous culinary tradition. Hominy stew, the power of treated corn. Hominy may look like simple puffed corn, but it represents one of humanity's great nutritional breakthroughs. By soaking corn in an alkaline solution, indigenous peoples dramatically improved its digestibility and nutritional profile, preventing diseases like pellagra that later devastated populations who ate untreated corn as a staple. Different native nations developed their own versions of this process, sometimes calling the treated corn nixtamal or hominy. To make hominy, dried corn kernels are mixed with water and wood ash from specific trees, often oak or hickory, or with lime. The mixture is heated until the tough outer hulls loosen. The kernels are then rinsed and rubbed until the hulls and tips are removed, leaving plump, chewy white kernels that are more nutritious and easier to digest. Hominy stew pairs these kernels with meat, frequently venison or rabbit, as well as whatever seasonal plants and seeds are available. Wild onions, sunflower seeds, and even berries might be added to the bubbling pot. The simmering stew is cooked slowly over low fires, allowing flavors to blend and the hominy to reach a tender yet pleasantly chewy texture. This dish did not just keep people alive, it offered complete nourishment in a single bowl, sustaining communities through times of hardship. Nettle soup, spring medicine in a bowl. Stinging nettles may be feared by hikers for their painful touch, but for many indigenous communities, they are a treasured spring food and remedy. Young nettle leaves gathered before the plant's flower are incredibly nutrient-dense, richer in protein than spinach, and loaded with iron, calcium, and vitamins A and C. Nettle soup served as an important seasonal tonic, helping people recover strength after long winters with limited fresh foods. Harvesting nettles must be done carefully. Thick gloves and long sleeves protect the skin from the stinging hairs that cover the leaves and stems. The best leaves come from tender young plants in early spring, before they become tough and develop stronger irritant properties. Once cooked, the sting disappears completely. The leaves turn into soft, dark green vegetables with a flavor similar to spinach but more complex and earthy. Traditional nettle soup starts with water or bone broth as the base. Cleaned nettle leaves are added along with wild onions, prairie turnips, or other available roots and greens. Some families add bits of meat for extra protein, while others keep it vegetarian. The finished soup is vibrant green and grounding in flavor, a reminder of the deep relationship between indigenous people and the land that revives them each year. Cedar tea, forest medicine in a cup. Cedar tea is a term used broadly by many native communities, even though the beverage often comes from the needles of various evergreen trees such as white pine, hemlock, or juniper, rather than true cedar species. These trees share similar aromatic and medicinal properties. This tea was especially important in winter, when fresh fruits and vegetables were scarce. It provided vital vitamin C and other nutrients that protected against scurvy and supported immune health, problems that severely affected many early European newcomers. Preparation is simple but intentional. Fresh or dried needles are steeped in hot water for several minutes, infusing the liquid with a piney, resinous aroma and a slightly bitter taste. The resulting drink provides vitamin C, antimicrobial compounds, and soothing properties for respiratory and cold-related illnesses. Drinking cedar-style tea is more than just hydration. It is a spiritual and sensory link to the forest. Every sip carries the scent and essence of trees that have lived through countless seasons. Many native nations regard this tea as sacred, using it in ceremony, purification, and healing, as well as in everyday nourishment. The flavor and strength of the tea vary depending on the tree species, the age of the needles, and the time of year they're harvested. Tender spring growth tends to produce a milder, fresher taste. Sumac lemonade, staghorn. Sumac's tangy gift. Staghorn sumac grows along roadsides, fields, and forest edges across much of North America. Its bright red berry clusters may look suspicious to some, but they are actually edible and make a refreshing, naturally tangy drink. Many native communities discovered that soaking these berries in cool water produces a beverage that tastes surprisingly like lemonade, without any citrus at all. The key step is identifying the correct plant. Staghorn sumac has fuzzy, cone-shaped clusters of deep red berries. Poison sumac, by contrast, has smooth white berries and grows in wet, swampy areas, and must be strictly avoided. To make sumac lemonade, the red berry clusters are placed in cold water and allowed to steep for several hours. The water draws out the tart, citrus-like flavor and natural pigments. The liquid is then strained through woven baskets or cloth to remove seeds and fine hairs. The resulting drink is a beautiful pink-red color with a clean, tangy taste that quenches thirst without being overwhelmingly sour. It also provides vitamin C and antioxidants. Sumac drinks were often served at gatherings, feasts, and summertime ceremonies. The berries can be dried and stored, allowing people to enjoy this bright, sunny flavor even during the dark months, when a reminder of summer is most welcome. Cholla buds with agave syrup, desert dessert. To someone unfamiliar with it, the Sonoran Desert might appear lifeless and empty, but to tribes like the Tohono O'odham, it is a rich pantry of wild foods. Among these are cholla buds, the unopened flower buds of the cholla cactus. They ripen in late spring, a time when other foods might be scarce, making them especially valuable. These buds are loaded with nutrients, protein, calcium, and complex carbohydrates that help sustain people through the lean season. However, they come covered in sharp spines and must be harvested and processed with skill. Using long wooden tongs or poles, gatherers knock the buds off the cactus before they blossom. The buds are then cleaned by rolling them in sand, brushing them, or carefully scorching them over a fire to remove the tiny spines. Once despined, the buds are roasted slowly in earth ovens lined with hot stones. Over hours, they become soft, slightly sweet, and deeply flavored. Agave syrup, made from the heart of the agave, sometimes called century plants, is the perfect companion. Agave hearts are themselves roasted in underground pits for days until their tough fibers caramelize, turning their starches into rich, smoky sweetness similar to dark honey. When roasted cholla buds are drizzled with agave syrup, the result is a simple yet luxurious dessert, entirely natural, completely local, and sweet enough to end any meal with satisfaction. This pairing shows how desert peoples could find sweetness, nourishment, and joy in one of the harshest landscapes in North America. Prickly pear cactus jam, desert fruit preserved. Prickly pear cacti produce brightly colored fruits called tunas, which can range from golden yellow to deep crimson. These fruits contain precious vitamins, minerals, and natural sugars that southwestern indigenous peoples learned to harvest despite the plant's defenses. Tiny hair-like spines called glockids. To gather them safely, pickers wear thick gloves or use tools to twist the ripe fruits off the pads. The fruits are ready when they turn rich in color and yield slightly to pressure. The glockids are removed by rolling the fruits in sand, brushing them with cloth, or carefully burning them off over a low flame. Once cleaned, the fruits reveal juicy, seed-filled flesh that may be pale or intensely magenta, depending on the variety. To make prickly pear jam, the peeled fruits are mashed and cooked gently for an extended period, allowing excess liquid to evaporate and the mixture to thicken. Traditional methods rely on the fruit's natural pectin to gel the jam, though some communities enhance the texture with ground chia seeds or other plant thickeners. The finished jam is vivid in color and bursting with a floral, honeyed sweetness unlike any other fruit. It can be stored for months without refrigeration, giving families a taste of the summer harvest during winter and serving as a cherished treat for celebrations and communal meals. Pine nut soup, pinon comfort. Pine nuts, often called pinon nuts, come from specific pine species that grow in the American Southwest. They are rich in protein and healthy fats and are so valuable that when trees produce abundant cones, a good pinon year, it is cause for happiness and gratitude. Tribes such as the Paiute, Shoshone, and Navajo have long relied on these nuts as a major food and trade item. Pine nut soup represents a cherished comfort dish, combining the creamy richness of the nuts with warm broth. Harvesting pine nuts is a seasonal art. The cones must be gathered when they are starting to open, but before the nuts fall to the ground or are eaten by animals. Families and groups travel to traditional groves, often camping there and gathering for days or weeks to collect enough to last through the year. Cones are dried or lightly roasted, so they open fully, and then the nuts are extracted by hand. Labor-intensive work that brings people together in shared effort and conversation. For the soup, the shelled nuts are ground into a paste or meal and cooked with water or broth until the mixture becomes thick and creamy. Some recipes add wild greens, roots, or pieces of meat, while others depend solely on the nuts for flavor and nutrition. The final soup is smooth, gently nutty, and incredibly satisfying. Pine nuts are one of the rare plant foods that provide a complete protein profile, making this dish especially nourishing in traditional diets. Smoked eel. River richness. Preserved rivers, creeks, and coastal waters across North America once held plentiful eel populations, providing a reliable source of fat and protein to tribes living near these waterways. Eels, with their long, snake-like bodies, could be caught in baskets, traps, or with spears by skilled fishers. Smoking the eels preserved them, concentrating their rich flavor into a food that could last throughout the year. To catch eels effectively, people learned their seasonal rhythms. Eels tend to be more active at night and during rainy or cloudy weather, moving into shallower waters as they search for food. Ingenious woven traps were designed to funnel the eels into basket-like enclosures from which they could not escape. Spearfishing for eels demanded sharp reflexes and an intimate understanding of where they prefer to hide during daylight hours. Once caught, the eels were cleaned and then hung on racks over slow, smoky fires. Specific woods such as alder or oak were often chosen to impart particular flavors. The smoking process could take several days, gradually removing moisture and infusing the eel with smoky notes while keeping the interior tender. The resulting smoked eel is deeply flavorful, oily, savory, and slightly chewy with a firm texture. It provided high levels of omega-3 fatty acids and complete protein, helping communities maintain good health, especially during cold months when fresh foods were not always available. Chokecherry patties. Power in a small bite. Chokecherries grow abundantly across much of North America, producing small, dark fruits with intensely astringent flesh. Eaten fresh in large amounts, they can be harsh, but indigenous ingenuity turned them into one of the most important preserved foods on the plains. Tribes such as the Lakota and Cheyenne processed chokecherries into compact patties that could be stored for years. These patties concentrated the fruit's nutrients and natural sugars into portable, resilient food. The process involved mashing the whole berries, pits included, into a thick paste. This paste was then spread thinly on cleaned hides or woven mats and left to dry in the sun. Over time, the fruit mixture dehydrated into a leathery sheet that could be peeled off, cut, or rolled and stored. Including the pits wasn't an accident. They added a faint almond-like flavor and contributed additional nutrients. Traditional chokecherry patties were far more concentrated than modern fruit leathers. They were dense, chewy, and intensely flavored, designed to deliver as much energy as possible in a small piece. Just a bite or two could sustain someone for hours of hard work, traveling or hunting. Because of this, many tribes considered chokecherry patties essential travel and emergency food, carried in packs for long journeys when fresh food was uncertain. Hopi bread, paper-thin blue corn art. Piki bread, made by the Hopi people of northeastern Arizona, is one of the most technically demanding foods in native cuisine. This bread is so thin it is almost see-through, yet sturdy enough to be rolled and stored for long periods without breaking. Beyond its delicate structure, piki carries deep ceremonial importance and is often made for special occasions and rites of passage. The bread begins with finely ground blue cornmeal, processed until it is almost powder-like. This meal is mixed with water and a small amount of plant ash, commonly from specific herbs, which acts as a natural alkaline agent and leavening aid. The batter must reach the perfect consistency, very thin, almost like paint, but still cohesive. Piki is cooked on a special flat stone slab that has been smoothed and polished over many years until its surface is glass-like. The stone is heated over a fire to a precise temperature. The cook uses a hand-held tool, often a bundle of fibers, to spread a thin layer of batter over the hot stone in one smooth motion. Within seconds, the batter dries and sets into a fragile, paper-thin sheet. It is quickly lifted or peeled from the stone and rolled or folded while still warm. Master piki makers can produce sheets so thin that you can read text through them, yet they remain strong enough to be stored in bundles for months. This bread is as much a work of art and spiritual practice as it is food. Cattail pollen cakes, golden marsh. Treats cattails, with their tall stalks and brown cigar-shaped flower spikes, are a common sight in wetlands across North America. Every part of the plant is useful, but the bright yellow pollen that coats the flower spikes in early summer is especially prized. This pollen is rich in protein, vitamins, and minerals, making it a powerful supplement to traditional diets. It was also used to create small golden cakes that were both nutritious and beautiful to look at. Collecting cattail pollen requires careful timing. The pollen is ready when the flower spikes turn vivid yellow and release fine clouds of powder when shaken. Harvesters bend the heads over baskets or bags and tap them so the pollen cascades down in golden dust. A single good day in a healthy marsh can yield several pounds. The pollen is then mixed with ground cornmeal or other flours, along with water and sometimes eggs or fat, depending on regional traditions and available resources. The resulting batter is shaped into small cakes or patties and cooked on hot stones, griddles, or in earth ovens. The finished cakes are a sunny yellow color with a delicate, slightly nutty and floral flavor that is truly unique. They provided dense nutrition and were often served at gatherings and ceremonies as special treats, a way of sharing the abundance and brilliance of the marshlands with everyone present. Salmon baked on cedar planks. For tribes of the Pacific Northwest, such as the Coast Salish, Chinook, and Haida, salmon was the heart of survival and ceremony. One of their most iconic dishes involved cooking fresh salmon on cedar planks placed over an open fire. The cedar imparts a smoky, woodsy aroma while keeping the fish moist and tender. Traditionally, the salmon is butterflied, lightly seasoned with wild herbs, and pinned to cedar boards before being propped near the flames. The slow roasting method creates a rich, flaky dish full of healthy fats, protein, and deep cultural meaning. This wasn't just a meal, it was a celebration of the salmon runs that sustained thousands of indigenous families for generations. Venison and wild berry sausage eastern woodlands tribes such as the Iroquois, Huron, and Shawnee created flavorful sausages by blending ground venison with wild berries like blueberries or service berries. The meat mixture was sometimes smoked or dried, allowing it to last for months. The berries added sweetness, moisture, and essential nutrients, transforming the sausage into both a meal and a portable travel food. This dish balanced protein, natural sugars, and fats, perfect for hunters, warriors, and long seasonal journeys. Today, it remains a powerful example of indigenous ingenuity and resourcefulness. Wild turnip and bison soup prairie tribes, such as the Lakota and Mandan, relied on prairie turnips, timpsila, a root vegetable that stored well and offered long-lasting energy. These roots were sliced, dried, and later simmered with bison meat and wild herbs to create a hearty soup that could feed entire families. The turnips added a sweet, earthy flavor while thickening the broth. Combined with bison, this soup delivered warmth, strength, and endurance, especially during winter months. It was both everyday nourishment and a ceremonial food used in gatherings honoring the buffalo. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to hit like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Your support helps keep these forgotten voices alive. And please take a moment to watch our other videos. They dive even deeper into Native American history and the untold truths that shaped America.